Mom told me that back then, the world was full of walls and no's. People looked at Grandpa and Grandma and said they didn't belong together. But Grandpa? He didn't listen to the noise. He chose to be a bridge instead of a wall. He fought battles I'll never have to fight, just so their love could survive. They aren't here anymore, but every time I smile, I feel his courage. Because Mom taught me that love isn't just a feeling, it's the bravest thing you can choose to do. Mom says that to understand love, you have to understand the world that tried to stop it. So she told me the story from the beginning. And I'm going to tell it to you, just the way she told it to me, sitting on the edge of my bed, with the lamp low and the rain tapping on the window. She said, "Close your eyes, baby. Let me take you back. So close your eyes. Let me take you back." Mom told me Grandpa first saw Grandma at a market on a Saturday morning. She said the sun was doing that thing it does after a long rain, everything kind of glowing, like the sky had been washed clean. Grandma was standing near a flower stall, not buying anything, just smelling the roses with her eyes closed. And Grandpa? He was supposed to be buying bread for his mother. But he forgot all about the bread. Mom said Grandpa told her once, "I saw her standing there," and the whole market disappeared. The noise. The people. Gone. It was just her. He didn't speak to her that day. He was too afraid. Not of her, of the world between them. Because even in that market, you could see it. The way people stood on separate sides. The way certain faces weren't welcomed near certain stalls. The world had invisible lines drawn everywhere, and Grandpa and Grandma, they were standing on opposite sides of one. But he came back. Every Saturday. 4 weeks. He would find a reason, tomatoes, onions, a loaf of bread he didn't need. And every time, he'd stand a little closer. Not to be brave. Just because he couldn't help it. Mom said it was like gravity. Like two stars that didn't know they were pulling each other. One Saturday, Grandma dropped a basket of oranges. They rolled everywhere, under tables, between people's feet. And Grandpa, without thinking, knelt down and started picking them up. Their hands touched over the last orange. And she looked at him. And he looked at her. Mom said Grandma told her, "I knew right then. I knew the world wouldn't let us be easy. But I also knew I didn't want to pick up oranges with anyone else." That's how it started. Not with a speech or a grand gesture. With oranges on a dusty floor. With two people who didn't ask permission to feel what they felt. But the world noticed. The world always notices. They began meeting in quiet places after the market. Behind the church wall. Under the old bridge by the river. In the shade of a tree so wide it could hide two people and their secret. Mom said those early weeks felt stolen, like Grandpa and Grandma were. Borrowing time from a world that wouldn't have given it freely. Every minute together was a tiny rebellion. But secrets have short lives in small towns. A neighbor saw them talking the following week. Then a cousin. Then a friend of a friend. And just like that, like fire catching dry grass, the whispers began. They don't belong together. She's from there, and he's from here. This will end badly. Mom said the whispers were the first wall. Not the tallest, not the hardest. But the first. And Grandpa could feel it going up, brick by brick, every time someone looked at them sideways. He told Grandma, "They're going to try to build a wall between us." And Grandma said, Then we'll learn to climb. Mom told me this part slowly, like she wanted me to really hear it. Not just the words, but the heart behind them. She said the first big no came from Grandpa's own mother. His mother, my great-grandmother, sat him down one evening and said, very calmly, very coldly, "You will not see that girl again. No yelling. No tears. Just a sentence, delivered like a locked door." Grandpa didn't argue. Not because he agreed, but because he knew that arguing with a locked door doesn't open it. You have to find another way through. But the no didn't stop there. It echoed. Grandpa's brothers stopped speaking to him. His oldest brother, the one he used to fish with, the one who taught him to ride a bike, crossed the street one day just to avoid walking near him. Mom said Grandpa told her that moment hurt worse than anything. Worse than the insults. Worse than the threats. Because that brother wasn't a stranger. That brother was supposed to be his bridge. And instead, he became a wall. On Grandma's side, it wasn't much better. Her father didn't say no with words. He said it with silence. Weeks without speaking. Meals without eye contact. A chair at the dinner table that might as well have been empty. Grandma said the silence was louder than any shouting. Because when someone yells, at least they're still talking to you. Silence means they've already decided you're gone. And it wasn't just family. The world outside was unkind in its own quiet ways. The baker who used to save the warm loaf for Grandma's mother suddenly stopped. Friends who used to visit for Sunday coffee stopped knocking. Invitations to weddings and christenings dried up like puddles in the sun. Mom said it was like a slow disappearing, not dramatic, not violent, just a gradual erasing. As if by loving the wrong person, Grandma had made herself invisible. Mom told me about a letter. A letter Grandma's father wrote, not to Grandma, but to Grandpa. He never showed it to Grandma while he was alive. But years later, after Great-Grandpa passed, they found it folded inside a Bible. Mom read part of it to me once. She said Great-Grandpa wrote something like, "You are taking her into a storm that will not stop. And when it breaks her, it will be your fault." That letter weighed on Grandpa for years. Because it wasn't just anger, it was a prediction. It was a father saying, "You will destroy my daughter." And Grandpa had to carry that, every single day, wondering if the old man was right. But he didn't stop. Mom said there were days that were harder than the letter. Days when Grandpa would go to work and find that no one would sit next to him. Days when shop owners would refuse to serve them together. Days when people would look at Grandma with pity, as if she were a prisoner, as if Grandpa were her cage instead of her choice. There was a woman at the fabric shop who used to smile at Grandma every time she came in. After the town found out, the smiles stopped. One day, when Grandma walked in, the woman turned her back and started rearranging spools of thread she had already organized. Grandma stood there for a moment, waiting. Then she quietly turned around and left. Mom said Grandma never spoke about it. But she stopped going to that shop. Once, and Mom told me this one quietly, like it still hurt to say, someone threw a rock at their window. Not a big rock. Not a brick. A small stone. But Mom said Grandpa sat in the dark that night, looking at the cracked glass, and didn't say a word for hours. Because the rock wasn't really a rock. It was a message. It said, "We see you. And we don't want you here." I asked Mom, didn't they ever want to give up? And she looked at me for a long time. Then she said, every single day. But giving up on each other would have been giving up on themselves. And your grandpa? He didn't know how to do that. She said Grandma used to tell Grandpa on those dark nights, the giants are loud, but they are not strong. We are small, but we are unbreakable. And Grandpa would smile and hold her hand. And the storm would keep raging outside, but inside their tiny room, there was a quiet that nothing could touch. Every story has a moment where the road splits in two. Mom said Grandpa's came on a Thursday evening, in the kitchen of his mother's house. His father, my great-grandfather on Grandpa's side, was very sick, bedridden for weeks. The family gathered, and for the first time in months, Grandpa was allowed through the front door. Not because they forgave him, because they needed him. He sat by his father's bed for an hour, holding the old man's hand. Mom said Grandpa told her that his father didn't say much. Just squeezed his hand once, and it felt like a whole conversation. All the things they could never say out loud passed through that one squeeze. Afterward, his mother pulled him aside and made him an offer. She said, come home. Leave that woman. Help your father through this. And when it's over, everything will be as it was. Your brothers will speak to you again. You'll have your family back. Your job at your uncle's shop, restored. Everything. Mom said Grandpa stood in that kitchen for a long time. She said he told her he could hear his father coughing in the next room. He could smell the soup his mother had been cooking, the same soup she made when he was a boy, sick with fever, and she'd sit at his bedside and sing. Everything he had lost was right there, being offered back. His family. His home. His name. All he had to do was leave Grandma. He said no. Not with anger. Not with pride. He said it the way you close a book you love but know you've finished reading. Gently. But completely. His mother didn't cry. She just nodded. And then she said something that Mom told me Grandpa carried like a scar for the rest of his life. She said, then you have no father. Grandpa walked out of that house and never went back. Not for holidays. Not for birthdays. Not even when his father passed, 2 months later. He wasn't told in time. He found out from a neighbor, 3 days after the funeral. Mom said that when she asked Grandpa about that, about missing his own father's goodbye, he got very quiet. And then he said, I didn't leave your grandmother that day because I loved her more than my father. I left because if I abandoned her to earn back people who asked me to stop loving, I would have lost the only part of me worth keeping. Mom said that was the day Grandpa stopped being a boy. He became a bridge. Not just for Grandma, but for every person who would come after them. For Mom. For me. He didn't know it then. He didn't know that years later, a little girl would sit on a bed and hear this story and cry, not because it was sad, but because she finally understood what it costs to love someone when the whole world says no. He paid that cost. In full. And he never asked for change. Mom said the years after the great choice were not easy. But they were theirs. Grandpa and Grandma moved to a small town where nobody knew their names. They rented a room above a bakery, so small that the bed took up almost the whole floor, and the kitchen was just a stove and a shelf. But Mom said Grandma used to call it our palace, and she wasn't joking. She meant it. Because a palace isn't about the size. It's about who's inside. Grandpa found work at a factory. Long hours, hard labor, pay that barely covered rent. But he never came home without a smile for Grandma. Mom said that was his superpower, not strength, not speed, just the ability to walk through a hard day and still light up a room when he opened the door. Grandma started sewing, first for neighbors, then for a shop downtown. She was good at it, too. Not just good, Mom said Grandma could make a dress out of nothing. She'd take old curtains, scraps of fabric, things other people threw away, and turn them into something beautiful. Mom said it was like Grandma sewed the way she loved, finding beauty in things the world had given up on. They didn't have much. Some weeks, dinner was bread and soup, and that was it. But Mom said they never, not once, complained about what they didn't have. Because what they did have was something no one could take away. They had each other's name. They had a door they could close. And behind that door, no one could tell them no. Mom was born on a rainy Tuesday. She told me that story too, how Grandpa ran 6 blocks to the hospital because they didn't have a car, and he carried a blanket under his coat to keep it dry. When the nurse handed Mom to Grandpa for the first time, he just stood there. Didn't say a word. He just looked at this tiny person, and Mom said Grandma told her, "Your father held you like you were made of light." And that's when the world started to change, slowly, the way dawn changes the sky. Not all at once. Just, gradually. Neighbors who used to look away started waving. The baker downstairs began leaving extra rolls by their door. The woman at the fabric shop, a different one, in the new town, started saving the good thread for Grandma without being asked. Not because the prejudice disappeared. It didn't. Some people never changed. Some walls stayed standing. But Grandpa and Grandma? They stopped trying to tear the walls down. They just built their life so tall that the walls didn't matter anymore. Mom said Grandpa started a small garden behind the bakery, just tomatoes, herbs, a lemon tree that never really gave good lemons but that Grandpa loved anyway. He'd water that tree every morning, talking to it like it was a person. "Come on," he'd say. "1 lemon. Just give me 1 good lemon." Grandma would watch from the window and shake her head and smile. They had a second-hand radio that only worked on 1 station, and every Sunday evening, they'd listen to music and dance in the kitchen. Mom said she used to sit on the counter and watch them. Grandpa wasn't a good dancer. He'd step on Grandma's feet and apologize, and she'd laugh and say, "Just keep going, I have 2 feet." And every time they danced, Mom said, the apartment didn't feel small anymore. It felt like exactly the right size. Just big enough for love and music and clumsy feet. Mom grew up in that tiny apartment above the bakery. She went to school. She made friends. She fell in love with Dad. And by the time I came along, the world had shifted enough that I got to be born into a family that was whole, a family that only existed because 2 people decided that love was worth more than comfort, more than approval, more than safety. I never met the great-grandparents who said, "No, but I'm here." And that means the no lost. Grandpa passed first. Mom said it was a quiet Tuesday, the same day of the week Mom was born. She said he was sitting in his chair by the window, the one with the worn-out cushion that Grandma kept meaning to fix but never did, because Grandpa said he liked the way it felt. He had a cup of tea. The radio was on, playing that same station they always listened to. Grandma was in the kitchen. And when she came back, he was just still. Mom said Grandma didn't scream. Didn't cry. Not right away. She sat down next to him, held his hand, and said, "You stubborn, beautiful man. You waited until I left the room. Grandma lived for 3 more years after that. Mom said she was never the same, but she was never broken either. She still sewed, still watered that lemon tree, which, by the way, finally gave one perfect lemon the year after Grandpa died. One. Just one. Grandma picked it and put it on the shelf next to his photograph and said, "Of course. You always had to have the last word." In those 3 years, Mom said, Grandma would sometimes sit in Grandpa's chair by the window and just look outside. Not waiting for anything. Just sitting where he used to sit. Mom said she thought Grandma could still feel him there, in the shape the cushion made, in the warmth the afternoon sun left on the armrest. She didn't talk about missing him much. She didn't need to. You could see it in the way she'd set 2 cups of tea sometimes before catching herself. In the way she'd pause at the garden and whisper something to the lemon tree, maybe the same things Grandpa used to say. When Grandma passed, Mom found a box under her bed. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Letters Grandpa had written to Grandma, some from before they were married, some from years into their life together. Mom said most of them were simple. "I miss you. I'm at work and I can't stop thinking about your laugh. The lemon tree is mocking me again." But one letter was different. It was dated from the night Grandpa left his mother's house. The night of the great choice. Mom said it was written in shaky handwriting, like his hands couldn't keep up with his heart. It said, "I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I made the right choice. I don't know if the world will ever stop being unkind. But I know this, when I think of tomorrow, you are in it. And any tomorrow with you is a tomorrow I want to fight for." Mom read that letter to me 3 times. And each time, she cried. And each time, I understood a little more. I never met Grandpa. I never met Grandma. I know them only through Mom's voice. Through the stories she tells me at bedtime, on rainy nights, in the car, at the dinner table. I know Grandpa through his stubbornness, his lemon tree, his terrible dancing. I know Grandma through her sewing, her silence that was strength, her one perfect lemon. And I know this. They didn't fight so that the world would remember their names. They fought so that someone like me could exist. So that I could sit here, loved and safe and whole, and never have to wonder if I belong. Because I do. I belong because they decided I would, long before I was born. Mom taught me that love is not a fairy tale. It doesn't come with a castle or a prince or a happy ending that arrives on time. Love is a Thursday night in a kitchen, saying no to everything you've ever known. Love is carrying a dry blanket through the rain. Love is a lemon tree that takes 30 years to give you 1 lemon, and you loving it anyway. Love is the bravest thing you can choose to do. And I choose it. Every day. Because that's what Grandpa would do. That's what Grandma would do. And that's what Mom taught me. Thank you, Mom. For the story. Thank you, Grandpa. For the bridge. Thank you, Grandma. For the climb. I carry all of you with me. In my smile. In my name. In every tomorrow I get to fight for.